Yeah. So for those on Zoom that may not have been able to hear the question, it's a great observation that gives rise to a question. The observation is startup events that are open to the general public, in his experience, are currently under-attended by investors and under-attended by experienced startup founders. Okay, so that's sort of the observation. And the question is why, what's going on, and what concerns might we have if there's sort of this separation between general startup events and some of the curated forms in which investors and startups are more active. I think that's the essence of it. I'll say a couple things broadly, and then I'll come to the question. I mean, one of the most interesting, shifts that I've seen over the last 15 years is just the locus of entrepreneurial activity. 2007, 2008 in the Front Range, to me, unequivocally was Boulder. It was the New Tech Meetup. It was the activity, the companies that were coming out of Boulder. I would have said that unequivocally. Today, I think the strength of the startup community is increasingly Denver. And I say that as someone who lives and works in Boulder. It's been a really interesting shift in terms of where critical mass of community is and where a lot of the interest. Now, there's still great startup activity in Boulder, but that shift is just a broad one that I've seen in the community. Second is one of the reasons that I have passion for this, and that you're probably a startup community builder, and Peter and the RVC team is as well, is a concept called social capital. And if you haven't read Robert Putnam's book called Bowling Alone, I highly encourage it. His central thesis, well, let me define social capital first. It's the amount of trust that exists between people in a community broadly. That's sort of a down and dirty version of social capital. And Putnam's argument is across a number of institutions in the United States, beginning around 1970, we start to see a diminishing amount of social capital. And some of the organizations that get cited are religious institutions that used to connect people and build trust. And his book is called Bowling Alone. And so he cites an interesting trend that numbers and participation in bowling overall were up during the time frame, but participation in bowling leagues was way down. That social activity was down. So he calls the